specifically when it comes to the playoffs and draft lottery. A group of tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists come out of the woodwork and claim that the NHL is rigged. It's scripted, someone pulling strings to determine the outcome of playoff games. This exact mindset repeats year after year, because when stakes are high and officiating is inconsistent, it will inevitably lead to conspiracy theories. Like seriously, every single season we think this is the worst officiating I have ever seen. Something is not right here. But this exact sentiment goes all the way back to the start of the league. But you know what? Maybe these tinfoil hat guys are onto something. How does this not get called?
On the just skating through and right in front of that Oilers bench.
For the love of all that is good, how is this not a suspension?
Rodriguez got knocked out. Fans want another penalty on Trouba.
My man at this point needs to be put on top of some kind of offender list, because Jacob Trouba has been attempting some of the craziest elbows I've ever seen.
Natchez is going to blow a shoot. Whoa, man.
In last year's playoffs, we would see Michael Bunting receive a match penalty.
Watch Bunting there as he gets Chernak, and his reaction is huge.
And you know what? That's fine. I am completely okay with this being a match penalty. But you can't look at this frame or this frame or this frame where it finally connects and tell me that this wasn't just as dangerous. But maybe, just maybe, does it have to do with the fact that Jacob Trouba plays for the Rangers, the NHL team with the biggest market potential in the world? Maybe these tinfoil hat wearing degenerates are onto something. And let's not forget about the draft lottery.
The first overall selection in the 2023 NHL draft belongs to the Chicago Blackhawks.
First overall selection in the 2023 NHL draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are very proud to select Connor Bedard.
You have got to be me. Does the Blackhawks winning the draft lottery have anything to do with the fact that Chicago is a far bigger market than, just say, Columbus, Anaheim, Arizona, where Bedard without a doubt going to Chicago will generate the league hundreds of millions and more in revenue? Because here's the thing, the NHL is a business. Yes, it's one of the greatest sports in the world, and that it has so much natural parity due to the complexity of roster construction, but when you consider how a single draft lottery could be the difference of hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, it does make you wonder, is the NHL rigged? So in today's video, we do a deep dive in this topic. And the results, my goodness, the results, they were shocking. I've loved Vessi shoes long before I was paid to wear them. I didn't do it to be cool, that was just the bonus. I did it because we're in rainy season. I did it because I love going camping, hanging out on the beach with my friends and family. And Vessi makes the perfect shoe for any occasion in any weather. I wear Vessi because I despise wet socks. And after wearing their shoes, that part of my life is history. Add in the fact that they make high quality shoes and clothing that looks amazing. I mean, come on, look at this jacket. I am in love. So it was a no-brainer for me to wear Vessi to promote their brand new Stormburst low top shoes, which have now received nearly 250 flawless reviews. It was a no-brainer for me to wear Vessi. So if you want to elevate your spring and summer and stand up and fight against wet socks, click my link down below or scan this QR code to automatically receive 15% off your next order. On this graphic, we have a list of every NHL team alongside of their franchise value as reported by Forbes. And as we can see, there is a large disparity between a team like Arizona, which is now Utah, the Buffalo Sabres, Blue Jackets, compared to the monster franchises that are the Leafs, Habs, New York Rangers. Now, think about this. Recently on the 32 Thoughts podcast, Elliot Friedman would mention how the league, the NHLPA, makes monumental decisions based on the playoffs, and specifically Stanley Cup final viewership. Having Edmonton in the final, or the New York Rangers, can literally equal an additional 50 plus million in league revenue. The fact that Edmonton made the finals has a lot to do with the recent salary cap increase. Think about the optics here, as reported by Kurt Badenhausen of Yahoo Sports. The New York Rangers playoff run in 2022, which keep in mind would end in the second round, would single-handedly generate $50 million from ticket sales, merchandise, and concession. And for some perspective, if we combine the other 15 teams in the playoffs that season, which includes every single game played from round 1 to the final, they would total $150 million. The New York Rangers only played 10 home games during their run, so they would generate over $5 million per game. And this doesn't even include TV revenue. The other 15 teams who played over 150 games, so they made on average around $950,000 per game. So the Rangers on average make more money alone than 5 entire NHL franchises. So when you see plays like this not getting suspensions or just non-calls, it truly makes you think, is something up here? On this graphic, we have the Rangers, Leafs, and Oilers regular season penalties per game from 2021 up until this season. For example, in this first batch, I would single out the Rangers. In their 2022 regular season, they had 3.55 penalties per game. In 2023, they had 3.3, and so on. But okay, Rob, what's the big deal? Because when it comes to the playoffs, special teams are everything. Because when teams shift to a 1-2-2 5-on-5 system, which reduces even strength scoring, if your power play is not clicking, you will not see results. If your penalty kill isn't working, you will not go far. As it's no coincidence that the Oilers are clicking at one of the best rates in NHL history this playoffs on the penalty kill, and just so happened to make it to the Cup final. In fact, Edmonton has only allowed 3 goals against on the penalty kill, but they also have 1 shorthanded goal. But at the same time, they have 19 power play goals.
To McDavid. Draisaitl score!
So what I'm trying to say is that both the PK and power play are instrumental in every cup run. Therefore, if the league truly had an influence on penalties being called, you would assume we would see less penalties called against the top teams in the league. And well, I would find some shocking results. These green lines represent how many penalties these teams got in the playoffs compared to the regular season. And as we can see, it's night and day. Look at Toronto in 2022, as we would see over 2.5 more penalties per game in the playoffs. So based on our findings, again, forget the single incidents. If we look at the grand scheme of things, it's safe to say that the biggest teams in the NHL by no means are getting an advantage. If the NHL truly wanted to capitalize on a Leafs playoff run, and they had control over the officials, there is no way in hell that Toronto receives that many penalties relative to the regular season, because between these 3 teams, we have seen over 100 playoff games. And 7 out of the 9 series saw the most profitable teams getting more penalties. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? Even if they're the greatest ref in NHL history, they will without a doubt have some weaknesses, or perhaps some type of bias. So unless we replace them with AI robots who make perfect calls, there is no scenario where playoff hockey won't have some brutal calls. Even if we had AI robots, they would definitely learn to hate Brad Marchand. The NHL draft is fundamental to the success of every team, given that it's become nearly impossible to find that number 1 center, number 1 defenseman, affordable depth outside the draft. If a team doesn't draft well, draft high to get those franchise pieces, that team's gonna struggle to sustain long-term success. And a Connor McDavid going to, I guess, Edmonton versus Arizona or Buffalo will be the difference between hundreds of millions of dollars. So from a business decision, would it even make sense to give Arizona Connor Bedard, a team who is playing in a college rink? Or should a team like Chicago win the draft lottery? As the Hawks are one of the most historic teams in North American sports history. Even for McDavid, I always found it a bit fishy that the Oilers just approved a brand new arena, and we all know that Gary Bettman loves his new arenas.
Excuse me 1 second. I'll tell you what, how about we have a discussion when I'm done?
This exact sentiment has caused many fans to commit to the idea that the draft lottery is rigged. On this graphic, we have the draft lottery winners from 2016 up until 2020. The y-axis shows the odds that a team wins the draft lottery, and the x-axis shows franchise value. There's a big difference between a team like Columbus and the New York Rangers. So for example, Carolina had a 3% chance of winning the lottery in 2018, and they have a franchise value of $825 million. I stopped this list in 2020 because there wasn't any crazy improbable lottery wins from 2021 run up until 2024, and I would start at 2016, because this was the year where NHL owners were sick to their stomach due to the Oilers winning every draft lottery, as they would change the rules to make it much harder for the last place team to win the first overall pick. More crucially, these rules now allowed for 3 separate winners. For example, back in 2017, the Flyers, Devils, and Stars all won the lottery, but none of them were bottom 3 in the league. So even though Colorado had one of the worst seasons in NHL history, they would go from the first pick to the 4th pick. But I will say, I think it worked out, as these new rule changes should theoretically make the lottery far more random. But if the NHL truly had their hands in the lottery, there should be some obvious trends here. But to be completely honest here, I've always had the thought in the back of my head that something's fishy here. Something's not right. However, I don't see any significant trends. Yes, 9 of the 12 teams have a value of over $1 billion, but 21 of the 32 teams are now worth over $1 billion. So statistically speaking, it's not that crazy, as the only thing that seems fishy is the Rangers, because back in 2019, they had a 75% chance at winning the lottery. In 2020, they had a 7% chance. So based on a single year, it's not that crazy. But if you multiply these odds, there was only a 0.0525% chance that they win back-to-back lotteries, which is definitely interesting given their $2.65 billion valuation. Them winning was extremely improbable, but still possible. So based on these drafts, which keep in mind do not even show 2021 to 2024, as those lotteries would back up the fact that the draft is not rigged, I don't think there's any evidence, any extreme trends that show us that the draft lottery is rigged. Now, the fact that Arizona has lost so many lotteries is another story, because here's the thing, it needs to be emphasized that NHL teams are mostly ran by billionaires. Not only some of the most powerful sports people, indoor investing groups in the world, but some of the most powerful people in the world. The Winnipeg Jets owner has a reported net worth of, up and get this, $45 billion. To give you some perspective, the highest paid player last season was Nathan MacKinnon, making $12.6 million. $12.6 million is more money than 99.999% of the world will ever see. Now, get this, if Nathan MacKinnon were to make this salary every single season until he reaches $45 billion, it would take him 3,571 years. What I'm trying to say is that, do you think some of the richest people in the world are okay with the NHL rigging the game against their team? Hell no. You don't become this rich without having a massive ego. I think there's no way in hell that some of these billionaire owners with big egos would rather make several $1,000,000 extra per season to give the New York Rangers a script into the finals. And to be clear, I had a couple hunches that something might be suspicious. But after finishing this video, I think hockey is a random game, full of random bounces and human error. But maybe I missed something. So what is the most questionable call, lottery, or whatever you have seen that just seems suspicious? Comment down below. Go Vessi down below, as I'm truly looking forward to use my shoes and jacket to bring out camping this summer. And as always, thanks for watching.